Scarcity mindset to me can become a way of self bondage. Like you're putting yourself in a bondage of thinking in scarcity, and that you don't have enough. There'll never be enough. Fear.
Hi, I'm Gabby.
Hey, I'm K. Will.
And we are K&G Culture. Welcome to our series, Marriage Journey. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for our listeners and our those who are watching this on YouTube. So what we're all about is basically just reminding ourselves and other people that we create our own culture, especially when we come together forming new families, or so that we can make our own patterns, our own values, set up our own culture. We don't have to bring everything that we've learned before, especially if they don't serve the current family status and current family relationships. So last episode we talked about patterns, habits, and thoughts and values that no longer serve us. And towards the end, we started talking about scarcity mindset, which Kareem is very passionate about. So what are your thoughts? Well, before we start, I do want to say this video is brought to you by Natural Hair on wash day. When you had a twist out, you ready to prepare for a twist out, but you forgot that you had to do videos. All right, Kareem. So, what are the what is your thought on scarcity mindset? Like, when did you learn about it? Do you think that you have some of it? Like, there are things that that might explain some of your behavior, like from scarcity.
Yeah. I don't know if we need to get into the definition or not, but to answer your question, when did I realize? First of all, the answer is yes. I do realize that it has been a part of my thought process that I have scarcity mindset at times.
Yeah.
When did I realize I had it? I realized I had it probably during college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that far back.
Yeah, because the thing is, all the way before college, it was just normal to me. Like that way of thinking just seemed normal is how I've always, not necessarily how I've always thought, my whole thought process. But like I said in the last video, scarcity mindset is not always, part of it is being taught, but to me, to the forefront of that, what's more impactful is that scarcity mindset is experienced.
So what did you realize in college? What were you thinking about before, or how did it impact the way you moved?
It really became a faith thing, because when I started taking my faith more seriously, I guess you can say, as I got older and my faith developed, because that's actually what happened. Like, you're in college, you're challenged in different ways, you're on your own, and my faith began to grow. That's when I realized, man, this way of thinking, like, I started asking myself, where did this come from? And this way of thinking is not good, to have the fear of running out, or feel like there's never enough, or you're not going to have enough. And we can go more into examples, but scarcity mindset to me can become a way of self bondage. Like you're putting yourself in a bondage of thinking in scarcity, and that you don't have enough. There'll never be enough. Fear of running out, like I said before.
But wasn't it legit? As far as you didn't have enough, or being raised not necessarily in poverty, but
single mom,
lower middle class, all of that, right? So it's not like it didn't come from. Come up for a good reason. You were in that state.
Yeah. So that's actually a good question. So that's actually a problem that I think people like us have. And when I say I think that's a problem, I mean there are times where, yes, we do come up in a scarcity environment to where you have to, make ends meet, make things work, pinch a little here, pinch a little there. And those times are valid. Like, everybody goes through hard times.
Mhm.
I get it. Trust me, I get it. I think the problem, this is my point now, the problem is when we're no longer in that situation, but we keep the mindset. So I have found that to be the challenge, not just for me, but like I said, for many people like us.
Right.
We get out of a bad situation, our faith starts to grow, the Lord starts providing more, and somehow we're still thinking as if we don't have enough. Or there's not enough, there's scarcity, or we're going to run out. Oh man, we might run out. We got to save this. And, saving is a very thin line. Somebody that has a scarcity mindset, saving has a very thin line with hoarding. So
it sounds like you have a stimulus being in that environment, and so the response is, okay, let's make do with what we have. But as you grow or go towards prosperity or abundance, stimulus is no longer there, but for some reason that response or that behavior still keeps happening. Gotcha.
So let me ask you then. So what about you? Do you feel as though like you've been in a situation or you grew up having a scarcity mindset as well?
So yeah, we were definitely probably below poverty line. I don't know what class we were in. Two parents, 3 kids making $40,000 a year, whatever that is. And I feel like my parents did not let us see that we were poor, but we also knew that we couldn't ask for certain things.
Right.
Sense.
Yeah.
We also knew that we couldn't go shopping often, or we were going to a thrift store or whatever. So we had what we need, but we were, we just weren't in that place of wealth or whatever. So as much as our parents didn't let us see that we were so much in poverty, however, I find myself even now adopting practices that maybe were important back then. So I save not just money, but I don't know, randoms cutlery. So having disposable utensils, I'll save that because I never want to be without. I never want to be in a situation where I won't have it, and I'll keep saving it. We have plenty. For some reason, I can't stop, or I feel like I'm gonna run out. So I don't know if that's part of scarcity mindset, but I just caught myself doing it this year, while we were talking about it. So probably in the past few months, and I was like, I might still have some habits that don't necessarily need to be there.
So when did you realize that you were struggling or had a scarcity mindset in some areas?
Just in the past few months. I don't
really.
I'm thinking I'm normal. Or what I'm doing is normal.
So you're proving my point. For me, from birth all the way up to, end of high school, going into college, I just thought it was normal. I thought everybody saves like this.
Correct. Or splitting meals. That you can watch the previous video on quesadillas, but splitting meals, I still do that. I don't necessarily need to, but I still do it. Because again, so in college, my parents didn't give me an allowance or money to go to school. I mean, they gave what they could, and then that was it. I was on my own. So I had to, I had to learn to. Lunchables was my lunch. Literally, the Lunchables that we give to 5-year-olds.
Right.
And make sure that thing lasted, or at least it filled you up and just keep it moving.
Right.
So
right.
I'm just used to splitting meals and just.
It's sort of like a thing where you learn to do without, and then it becomes the norm.
Correct. Yes.
So you're like you said, you're like, man, these Lunchables gotta last. You learn to do without eating. I mean, because I've been there too, where I realized I'll skip a meal or split a meal, back in the day, and then I after a while I was just like, oh, this is how I get down.
Right.
Keep it moving.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely get that.
I will say, don't laugh at people who do like take their leftovers home. Bruh, that's a way to save money though.
Yeah,
For real. A way to save
Yeah.
money and a way to save on
All,
calories.
all we saying is eat the full meal and then take something home. So I don't know if that went into turning greedy or no, just saving something for the next day, like because you ate full and you need something for the next day.
Right.
But so I heard a study online where I found this both interesting and disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
So the study was saying that people who have a scarcity mindset,
Mm-hmm.
right? When they get more, like say they get a raise or like we use the issue of food, they get extra food or anything to do with extra more than what they're used to having.
Mm-hmm.
The study basically said, but I think it was mostly talking about money.
Mm-hmm.
It basically said they would purposely self-sabotage so for instance, they get a raise,
Mm-hmm.
they would purposely increase their expenses. Like they'll go out and buy a new car,
Mm-hmm.
or they'll go out and get another subscription. They'll go out and so they're finding ways to spend it,
Mm-hmm.
which keeps them back at that poverty level. Why? But so this is why I said it's interesting and disturbing.
Uh-huh.
The reason being is that's their comfort level. And I found that very disturbing. I'm like, wow, we are self-sabotaging ourselves
Mm-hmm.
because we're not used to having more. We're not used to having more than enough. We're not used to having abundance. So what do? We spend it, we use it until we get back to our comfort level, which is not having enough.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So we really have, this is why it's good to examine and, just look at ourselves and like think about the choices that we make and why are we making these choices. Like you said, this is called KNG culture. What in our culture needs to be improved? What old ways are not serving us anymore?
Right.
This is one of them. Because maybe we saw that in our parents, we saw it in our household, and we grew up doing the same thing.
Right. Yeah, I don't think I learned a lot about like shedding like old habits, because they weren't necessarily bad. They're not bad.
Mm-hmm.
They're just appropriate for certain situations.
They're survival
Inappropriate-
tactics.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's true. So yeah, so I don't think
Excuse me.
like as you were talking, I've been taught that certain things that used to be okay before, they're not going to be okay now, or things that weren't okay before, they're going to be okay now.
Mm-hmm.
You always hear about like you have to grow up and you have to shed away like foolish or old or youthful
Mm-hmm.
things, but to me this is different because these are not necessarily good and bad. These are just what we had to do, and then just moving on so that we can enjoy. So when we were doing budget meetings and when we were in Athens, we have it, and then later as we progress, for some reason I still thought that we were still in this place of restriction and struggling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always thinking that we're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the money is literally on the piece of paper, the money is different.
But
For some reason, in my mind, in my heart, in my
Mhm.
soul, I'm like, all right, we're struggling. Oh man,
hey, we got to save this. We got
it's
to.
tight, it's tight, it's tight.
Yeah. But guess what? I know for me, part of that is because it was always tight growing up. So now you're not even in your parents' house, and to you it's still tight. And it's like, wow, that's a mindset. It literally, 50% of it has nothing to do with money.
Mm.
It has absolutely nothing to do with money and your income. It is a mindset. Because what happens is, and this is another part of scarcity mindset that we have to check ourselves on, we don't think we will ever have enough.
Yeah. Yep.
And when we do, for those who do, we don't ever think we will ever have more than enough. We don't ever think there's abundance of things out there where abundance is real. It's not just a thought.
Yeah.
Abundance is not, how can I put it? We think it's out of reach. You see what I'm saying? So that always tight, it's tight, it's tight.
Right.
Well, it can't be like this for everybody. And you know, what's the difference between us and those people? And to me, it's mindset. It's not just about finances.
So this episode was designed to interview you. But
Okay.
again, nobody asked you to talk about me. Because that's exactly what I was like, yes, God has blessed us, but it's still tight. that it doesn't matter the level of tax bracket or if you have that in your mind, you can't enjoy what you do have. Again, you'll be in survival mode, in fight mode instead of relaxing and enjoying and being content. And I'm saying you talking to myself.
Yeah, and based on what you just said.
To this day. That's crazy.
Yeah, and based on what you just said, we have realized as a couple that we have not allowed ourselves to enjoy our finances the way that we could.
Yeah.
And what we mean by that is it's okay. We have not allowed ourselves to feel okay spending money. Even though we could afford it, bills are covered, that kind of thing. We're not doing anything irresponsible.
Right.
But we also have not allowed ourselves to enjoy it, to have that good part of life. Almost as if you have to question yourself, do you deserve enjoying life? You know what I'm saying? And that, to me, all that goes back to mindset, scarcity mindset. So, yeah.
Right, because you can be poor and not necessarily have scarcity mindset. And you could be rich and definitely have scarcity mindset. So it is more than just what you earn, but about your outlook and your inward perspective. And who thought this would go this far?
So, should I tell my story
Brother.
about the car, or you want to set it up?
Nah, let me see. Yeah. All right, Mr. Williams. Again, going back to the interview you. So, how most recently, how have you seen scarcity mindset keep you away from something that you do deserve? Bam.
Yeah, you didn't want to say we got something to say about the car? Anyway.
That's how you do it.
I hear you. That was a good one. Yeah, I like how you did that. So, for over a year, I have needed a new car. We bought our Nissan a year after, or a couple of months after we got married. And it was a 2006. We are now in the year 2022. So it was a 2006. When we bought the car, it had 130,000 miles on it. And currently the car has 230 miles on it. So we put 100,000 miles on the car. So, over the course of 8-9 years of marriage. So, anyway, about a year ago, we started looking for a new car because we knew it was like, hey, we need a new car. We started looking, then we stopped. Then we started looking again a couple months later, then we stopped. And it's just not that we didn't know not that I didn't know I needed a new car. It's just we got busy. We had a lot of stuff going on. The car was still running. Let me put that out there. It was still running. However, it had an issue with the wheels and the axle.
Let me stop you there.
Okay.
You heard what he said? This car was old and had issues, but because it was still running, we held on to it.
Yes.
So sometimes, I have a sermon in my soul.
Go ahead, let me hear it.
But I have trouble with words, so I forget. It's like as much as I was like, I got the point. I'm still struggling. That even though we see that something is not for us as far as serving us and getting us to where we need to go, but because it worked before and it's working a little bit, we'll just hold on to it instead of shedding it, and moving on to greater and better.
You got it? There it is.
Take me out the frame. Go
Feel
ahead.
yourself.
I'm gonna go
So,
sit in that.
so it had an issue with the wheels and the axle, and we took it to the mechanic, and basically he said it's worth the cost. What it would cost to fix it is the worth of the car. So he was like, unless you have sentimental value over this car, he does not recommend fixing it.
Right.
And he was just being honest. So it would cost something like over $2,000 to fix the axle, the wheels, and whatever else was going on with the suspension. So you could, yes,
And mind you, he wouldn't let me drive that car.
that's true. So
Again,
yeah,
we're
when
holding on to that thing just because it'll work a little bit, but he wouldn't even let me drive the car.
right. So when I found out the car had that issue, I stopped Gabby from driving the car. I told her only I can drive because it's not safe. Right. So
That's something.
now we're holding on to something that's causing us safety issues.
This
This is scarcity mindset to the fullest. Anyway, so off and on looking for a car, and I stopped looking, and Gabby made it her mission to find. She said, "We're gonna find you a car." So as you guys know, pandemic, whatever, the prices of used cars have gone up because of supply and demand, and because of our chip shortage for all the chips that go into the brand new cars. And in 2020, they did not produce, manufacture as many cars as they normally would have. They produced less because of the pandemic. So that made the price of used cars go up. Anyway, I feel like I'm forgetting part of the story. Maybe Gabby can help me. But anyway,
Yes, because
I stopped looking for whatever reason, and she was just looking. We're gonna find you a car. So we started looking at the prices. So I had my dream car, and then I also had a car that would be cheaper, but a good car. Like this was a reliable car. So I started looking at the prices, and I'm like, these prices are not far away from each other. So as a matter of fact, my dream car, as opposed to the cheaper car I was looking at, there was only $1,000 difference in price. $1,000 difference. And I'm ashamed to tell you guys that I was actually considering buying the cheaper car. And I was like, but I stopped myself and was like, that's crazy, Kareem. Why would you do that? Before that, I was actually considering, that's the part I left out as well, fixing the Nissan. Like paying the over $2,000 to get it fixed, just so that we could save money, not spend money on a new car, and, just keep using the Nissan until something happened or whatever.
Well, let me tell you guys. So the times that we've looked for a car, Kareem has given every excuse of why why we couldn't buy it then. Okay, this is me being honest. So we I think we were looking for the car before we bought the house, and we said, okay, let's shift gears.
Mm-hmm.
We'll save money to buy that house first, and then we'll look for a car because we still had enough money to get the car.
Mm-hmm.
I gave him a deadline.
I forgot about that. I did forget about that. You're right.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
I gave your boy a deadline.
Did he find a car?
So, Kareem doesn't like to be pushed. I mean, no one likes to be pushed, really. But I thought I was doing something for his good.
No, it was good.
I know I'm not Jesus, but I was trying to do something for his good.
No. It
And
was
he
good.
still was rejecting.
I wasn't rejecting
You
it.
gonna let me finish?
Go ahead.
Is you finished or is you done? So I gave him a deadline, and I pushed him a little. I was like, ooh, it's coming. I'll do it. It's okay. I'll do it when okay? I can't even finish. Wait. He's like, I'll do it when I can, or just wait. Time pass on, I'll leave it alone. Because it's time for me to move on, because clearly he has. Then we looked in another season for a car. He's like, this is not the right season because the prices are going to be higher than if you wait a few months. And I'm like, okay, I understand the importance of delayed gratification. Best believe I know it well. But to what end and at what point, right? Again, how do you go from shift from not having enough to having more than enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not just a monetary or external thing. It has to be an internal change as well. So then he kept giving me excuses. I said, fine, whatever. Then I don't know what. Go ahead. I think now you're gonna talk about us.
So I have to go back to the deadline she gave me. I promise you. First of all, thank you for giving me the deadline, because that was one of the things that helped me realize that I need to get on it. We do need a new car. I would put it on the back burner. So thank you for giving me the deadline. However, I did miss the deadline because I got busy. It's not that I was purposely not looking for a car. We actually, because in that time we did look for a car when you gave me the deadline. It's just, it didn't work out. So, but you're right. So then, watch this. So now, we wake up one morning and it was early. It was like 7:30. And Gabby's like, I left something in the car. She goes out to the Nissan, comes back inside, and she says, all right, so I have some bad news. Are you ready? And I was like, what happened? She was like, somebody hit the car. I said, what do you mean somebody hit the car? Sure enough, I went outside. While we were asleep the night before, somebody ran into the Nissan and kept driving. Like, they totaled the car. The car is totaled out. And by the time we post this episode on the podcast, that'll be over and done with. But anyway, somebody totaled the car and kept driving. Thank God, Gabby was like, I'm going to check the ring camera. I'm going to check the security. And rewind, she searched through. 2:30 in the morning, somebody hit the car. And they just kept driving. So our insurance came out. Long story short, they totaled out the car. They said it's not worth fixing. Gabby looked at me and said, see, if that had not had happened, you would have still been taking your time looking for a car. Now I was forced to not just get a car, but get my dream car. So long story short, I was able to get my dream car. And I have to give all the props to my wife. Thank you so much. She had the faith to keep looking. She took it out of her busy schedule, took time to make sure that she found me a car.
Because we can't say how I got the time.
Right. Where did time come from, right?
Right. But yeah, like even that was a crazy story itself, because there were some things will try to deter you from trying to go forward and do something new. It will deter you because you're like, okay, I have this standard, but yeah. So I'm glad that he kept going, and God is faithful. He be looking out.
All right, guys. We hope that this episode has helped you. Ask yourself the questions. Check yourself if you think you're dealing with scarcity mindset, survival mode, any of those things. And anything else in your culture or things that you've picked up from your past, like Gabby said, that are not serving you anymore. Like, it doesn't serve you in this season of your life. All right. I'm K.A. Will.
And I'm Gabby.
And thank you for our KMG culture family that have been supporting us. Go create your own culture.